Hi everyone. Today we'll be talking about databases, database management systems. What is it that we actually understand about database management systems? Before we go there, let me just firstly define what do we understand about database management system. Database management system is a software package designed to define, manipulate, retrieve, and manage data in a database. Now that you know what is a database management system, but what is a system? A system refers to a set of components that works together to achieve a particular goal. But for this goal to be achieved, we will need data, which is one of the components that we earlier spoke about. The purpose of the information system is to collect, process, and store the data. Remember, the data is stored in a database management system. Also, it is also to transform the data into a meaningful information and later distribute that particular information so that we are able to make decisions. That information, it will then become knowledge that will actually support the organization in terms of how they can achieve their goals, they can achieve their own objectives. According to Lodin 2014, business invest in information system to achieve 6 strategic business objectives, which includes operational excellence, new products, services and business models, customer and supplier intimacy, improved decision-making, competitive advantage, and survival. That means every good decisions will actually require a good information system. And therefore, that means every business will need to have a good data that is stored in a databases. Data is a raw fact. It is a building blocks of information. It must be formatted for processing, for storage, as well as presentation. Side information is a result of processing the raw data to reveal the actual meaning. This requires a context to reveal the actual meaning. So that means we will have data that will go through the transformation process where it is actually being processed so that it can make meaning. That meaning will then become what we know as information. Let's now look at the hierarchy of data. Data normally starts with ones and zeros. Bits can be grouped to form what we call a byte. A byte represents one character or a number of symbols. And those bytes will be grouped to form what we know as the field. All the related fields can be grouped to form a record. As you can see in this record, we will have a student number, the course that the student has been registered, the date, and the actual grade where the student has actually received a certain mark. After this, then we will have what we called a file. A file, you will see that it is a representation of all the courses that the student or a number of students that have been registered. Here we have about 3 students in this example. One student obtained B and the other one obtained A and the other one obtained actual C. This is then what we call the actual field. And all this particular information will be within the database. The database will then have the course file, the personal file, the financial file. The course file will have to do anything that has to do with the student course. What is it that you as a student that has been registered for? The finance file will have to do with all the finance, how much does it the student actually owe. The personal file will have to do with the personal information about the student. For instance, your addresses, your contact details, and all of that. But all this is grouped into one database, which is the repository that is organized to store all the data that we're talking about. Let's look at a simple filing system. Here we have 2 departments. We have the sales department as well as the human resource department. Under the sales department, we will have a file management programs which has a customer file as well as the sales files. All these are files report programs. But however, within the human resource, we'll also have the file management programs, but also we'll have the agent file, which is the employees file, and then we'll also have the file program report. These are two different departments that will have different files, or that will have different access to different files by the virtue of the name of their departments. Let's look at a database system. Every department will log into a database management system to access files, which is the file system. For instance, a personnel department, which is known as human resource department, will log into a database management system to access information on employees or files on employees, while the sales department will log into a database management system to access information on customers as well as sales, and the accounting department will also log in so that they can have information on inventory as well as accounts. Every department will be actually accessing the actual files. For instance, the personnel will access the files of employees, sales department, customers, sales as well as inventory, and the accounting department will have access to accounts. Of databases, we have two types of databases, a centralized as well as distributed databases. A centralized database is a single database located at one site on a network, while the distributed databases consist of two or more files located in a different site on a network. We also have three types of data. We have unstructured data, structured data, and semi-structured data. The database management system manages the interaction between the end user and the database. That means we will have an end user, people who will be accessing the database so that they are able to retrieve the data that they actually want, depending what is it that they are looking for. For instance, if you ever are looking for files that has to do with customers, you will be accessing that particular folder. If ever you are more interested in the invoices or the products, the end user will be actually accessing that particular database. As we say, database manages the interaction between the end user and the database. There ought to be the end user as well as the database management system. Please note, the database system has 5 major parts, which is the hardware, the software, people, procedures, and data. Look at this example for a database system environment. We will have the end users as well as programmers, which is the people. And then we'll also have the applications that goes through the database management system, which represents the actual softwares. And then we will then have the hardware and computers that are actually used for this particular example. And we'll also have some of the procedures and standards that needs to take place. For instance, we will need to have the database designers, database administrators, supervisors, which are in case a part of the people. But these are the people that will actually write and enforce some of the procedures that you will actually need. So it simply means that the database will have hardware, softwares, people, procedures, as well as data. Every part of the database has its own objectives and goals. As you can read here, what will be the hardware is all about, the softwares as well as the people, the procedures as well as the data itself. For learners, if you go to Onikamva, you will also read more on database, read about the advantages of database management systems, the disadvantages of database management systems, and some of the capabilities of the database management systems. As we are unable to record everything, but if you go to eCanva, you will find more useful information on this particular chapter. And thank you for listening. Please take care.